Welcome, everybody, to another week of the Cincinnati Bengals Weekly Show. We're at Week 11. The Cincinnati Bengals Weekly Show is brought to you by Gridiron Mo, an interactive football app where you get to call what you think the offense or defense should do in a live NFL game and see what all others have called also. So check out Gridiron Mo at www.gridironmo.com. I'm your host for the Bengals Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I want to welcome in my co-host, former Cincinnati Bengal linebacker Joe Kelly.
Hey, what's going on, Mike?
Oh, not much. I'm getting tired of talking about games that aren't wins, Joe.
Another week, Mike. Another major disappointment from our preseason expectations, of this team. I think you and I we've discussed at times whether or not we have the personnel to compete with the good teams in the league. I still think that we do, and I've been a huge advocate of keeping Marvin this season. But we discussed earlier when you think about it, and if I, as a former player, can look at a game and it becomes so predictable. Your offensive coordinator becomes so predictable to me. Your defensive coordinators, I think by alignment and the fact that Marvin has a defensive background, that's what put Marvin in his position to be a head coach, is because of his defensive background. And I'm looking at the defense, Mike, and by alignment, over and over, we are already beat. Because you're talking about our defensive ends. Carlos Dunlap, one of the best rushing defensive ends in the league. He's dropping back in pass coverage.
And we just talked about that before we get on air, because it blew my mind. The stat I found online was the fact that Carlos Dunlap has 8 passes defensed, which is more than any Cincinnati Bengal defensive back has.
That's insane, especially since it's we're not talking about, we're past the halfway point, and when your defensive end is leading your team in passes defense, I don't think that's a stat that bodes well for your resume. It's just disappointing. Monday night was just a disappointment. It was a disappointment because at times we were in positions to put a dagger in those guys and not going for it on the fourth down on several occasions. You see, they turned around and went for it on a fourth down, which was totally a slap in our face, I said.
This is the fourth and goal at 3 where you get Odell Beckham one-on-one with Vontaze Burfict.
It's amazing. That play right there.
And that's coaching, I think, more than that. It's not Vontaze Burfict's fault he can't cover him.
Yeah, it was the wide receiver number 87. It wasn't Odell, but by alignment, by the defense, our linebacker, Burfict, was forced to cover this wide receiver one-on-one. By alignment.
Yeah, there's no way you can cover him all the way across the field, which they ran him on a little shallow cross, and there's no way he's covering that.
Yeah, you couldn't have covered him on a cross. If he did a stick and go, you still didn't have the speed. The only thing that Burfict could have did, which I would have done, I would have seen that wide receiver. So I would have said, if he comes on this crossing route, I'm going to knock the hell out of him.
Because inside of 5 yards, you can legally hit him.
So my mind is already made up. This guy. I'm gonna force him to do that dart route in and out, because I'm gonna hit him so hard he's gonna be out of the lane, because when the quarterback his progression goes to that guy, he's down on the ground. But by alignment, you force this linebacker to cover this wide receiver. You had to see that. So until Marvin had to see, we can look back just like we have on all these close games, and Boyd has a touchdown and can't, finish controlling the ball to the ground, which was unfortunate. But every time we had a chance.
Well, and Joe, you want to talk about coaching? What about the one we challenged where the guy's elbow or the Bengals' elbow is clearly down before the damn line to gain? And we challenged that and lose a timeout.
Right. Yeah. So, who's – because, I would think that there's someone. They have a designated person up there saying, hey, challenge that, don't challenge it.
Yeah, whoever that is, they need to fire that guy.
Yesterday.
I mean, because you remember you had the Pittsburgh game where it cost us a touchdown, where we had an entire knee and hip down, and they didn't challenge it.
Yeah.
Which told me the guy didn't know the rules anyways.
Yeah. It's Mike, it's frustrating from a fan perspective. It's frustrating from an ex-player perspective. It's frustrating for, those of us that know football. We're football guys. And I know you're sitting at home watching this game like I'm sitting, watching this game. And, I'm catching Gunther out in Zampese. It's like, here, when you get down there, how can you become so predictable in a situation where you can't be predictable?
Well, you had Kirkpatrick with the interception, takes it inside the 10, you get the ball at the 8, and 3 plays later, you're off the field and you didn't even try to get in the end zone.
Exactly. You just look at when the last time we had the ball, we had the drive, we had to put ourselves in a position just to when you look at right before halftime, I think that was a major.
Oh yeah, where they run the ball.
Yeah, we had time to put ourselves in position to at least try for a field goal, but there was no sense of urgency whatsoever. There was none. We run the ball, throw a short pass, run the ball. But we got to the 50. But had you had a sense of urgency, we could have, made 2 more throws, put ourselves in position to tie, to try a field goal right before half. That's 3 points. Guess what?
Plus, Joe, we only had 1 timeout because we had to call timeout at the start of the second quarter because our team was confused on the field. You blew the timeout on the challenge. So if you have 3 timeouts right there, the play calling's fine. You're at the 50. You got 28 seconds left. I mean, it's just the thing that blows my mind is Dallas and Pittsburgh. The reason Dallas beat Pittsburgh is because they were disciplined. They didn't have to waste timeouts in the third or early fourth quarter. And when they got to the last minute, when they got the ball, they had to go a ways, but they had all 3 timeouts remaining.
Yes.
I mean, when's the last time the Bengals have had 3 timeouts remaining going into the end of any half?
It was tough. I think that was a major by not, rushing, having a sense of urgency right before half, and then in the fourth quarter when we have to go and drive in, at least we don't have to get a touchdown. We can get a field goal. So that D line. They bought. They paid enough for a good defense. But that the defense coordinator is like, here, peel your ears back and let's go after this passer.
Well, hell yeah, Cedric Ogbuehi and Russell Bodine are in the game. Why wouldn't you go after him?
Yeah, but Mike, you know that. You're offensive coordinator. You're head coach. You know that.
Let's run a screen.
Screen. You heard of a screen before, Mike?
Hell, I'd take a draw. A draw or a screen. That's how you stop a pass rush that's in their ears and coming.
Yeah. So that they have committed the 4 linemen and at least another linebacker or 2. So they've committed. You're not gonna pass this ball on this series. Knowing that Ogbuehi cannot block Joe Kelly at 51 right now, and I'll put that on the air. There's no way 70 will block me.
I don't think there's any way 70's blocking anybody I've ever met, Joe.
Yeah, but even in that, Mike, you send 25 on a quick flare. You force a linebacker to go one-on-one. In that situation, I like 25 chances.
Well, see, you bring up 25, but we went through almost the entire second half without even seeing Gio on the field.
It's like I said, we go back and when I say we have the personnel to match them, because this NFC, when you look at football now, and everybody says now, hey, the strong conference is the NFC East. Okay, we got our our ass handed to us in Dallas. Washington, we should have beat. The Giants, we should have beat. And I'm not saying we should have. It had to come down to the last drive. we should have put ourselves in positions where, there should have been 2 touchdowns instead of, 2 field goals.
Yeah, but Joe, then again, in the NFL, everything is so close that you could say that about any game almost. The difference is those teams were more disciplined, didn't make as many stupid mistakes, and they beat us.
Yeah.
I mean, it gets old. It's the same thing all the time. The offensive line has given up 28 sacks this year. Last year, for the entire year, they gave up 17.
My thing at this point, you started Winston. You took him out for whatever reason. I still haven't seen the young kid from Arizona State, the offensive guard.
Oh, yeah, Christian Westerman.
Yes. So
he cannot be worse than Clint Bowling.
He cannot. My point, Mike. There's no way that this kid. But I know that kid. At least that kid is a fighter. At least that kid is going to punch back. I'm seeing guys get their asses handed to them, and there is no fight. I'm saying fight. I'm not saying go get a penalty and literally punch a guy, but I'm saying fight back, compete. Get pissed because you just gave up a sack. Get pissed because you just got ran over. Show some gumption, man. Show some kahunas, man. And I see that. I see lack of heart. I see lack of desire. I see lack of passion. I see guys just walking, just guys going through emotion. And from that standpoint, I remember playing for the Bengals. Sam would come, and I never need anybody to pump me up. I'm going to pump myself up, but I can tell you how many games in the 4 years that I played for Sam that Sam would come and I'm stretching, I'm warming up, or the game could be going, and Sam Weiss would come to me and he's like, Joe, damn it, get this team going. So I know what that meant. I never went out and got a penalty, but I know that there was going to be some fire. There was going to be some piss and vinegar. Somebody coming across the field was going to get their helmet knocked off. A lineman, you pulling. I'm going to try and knock your face mask off. So I knew what that meant. And he looked at me in order to get this team going. It's not really just, I'm not having to, he didn't look for me to rant and rave and go up the sideline and cuss and fuss. It was on the field. Get on the field, and I need you to make a play. I need you to spark, this team. I need you to get.
Yeah, but Joe, the problem with this team is this: not the same teammates you had. Vontez Burfict does that, and there's no response from anybody else. It seems to me like Vontez Burfict is in almost every play for the defense. I mean, you don't see a bunch of guys flying to the ball. It's the one thing you never see with the Bengals. If they run a sweep, there's going to be the guy that might make the tackle, maybe 1 or 2 other guys standing around. You watch a team like the Denver Broncos or the Seattle Seahawks, all 11 guys are going to the ball.
So, like I said, I don't know if they're, it when you look at it, when we're talking about effort, and we're talking about those things, because in the NFL, you're going to get beat. In the NFL, you are going to get physically beat. I don't care who you are. I've seen Howie Long get his ass whooped. I've seen Anthony Munoz get whooped. But what you're not going to see is lack of effort, lack of passion. What I didn't ever see is Anthony. I might have seen Bruce Smith beat Anthony handedly. I might have seen Dexter Manley beat Anthony handily that one play. But but they're not going to do it consistently. Dexter Manley and Bruce Smith got it handed to him after that.
Yeah, because he's a guy that doesn't get down on himself, and he's there for his teammates, which I think is a big problem in the NFL anymore. I think a lot of guys are that. I mean, like Clay Matthews gets a hangnail, he sits out for a month.
Oh man, yeah, it's different, but I say, it's different for all the teams. It's different for every
but the thing is this, you got teams like New England, teams like Seattle, you don't see that. And I think the reason that it's like that in those places, and there aren't too many places like that anymore, is because those coaches hold the players accountable.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I don't think it's held accountable here. And my question is this. I know Mike Brown, everybody says step completely away and everything, but do you think there's any chance that with Cedric Ogbuehi, who was a first-round pick last year, that maybe Marvin's being told to play him?
Yes. I guarantee you
Because I don't think Marvin is that bad of a coach.
I would put everything that I ever thought I knew about football on that and the Bengals organization.
And my other question to you is this, Joe. If you're a player in that locker room and you know that's happening, don't you lose respect for that coach?
Not if you know what's going on. But
if you know what's going on, this is my thing. I mean, everybody said, well, Marvin wants a head coaching job, but is it worth to have a head coaching job to be at a place where you're going to fail no matter what you do?
Well, you know what? Honestly, when I look back and different events around, when I go around different events around Cincinnati, and Marvin's, really always, he'll see me, he'll come, hey Joe, how you doing, man? How's the group homes doing? Good. Hey Marvin, so it's always personal with me. But I know Marvin's a different defensive coordinator than he is a head coach. I knew that when the Chris Henry deal, because Marvin was like, no, I don't want that guy on my team. I do not want that poison on my team. But Mike Brown said, that guy's going to be on my team.
That's my question. Does it even matter in the end who coaches the damn team?
For Cincinnati, it matters some, but at the end of the day,
because you can only do what you're allowed to do. You only
can draft who you're allowed to draft.
Yeah.
You have to go in there and fight. So my thing is, who was Obeye's guy? Who liked Obeye? Who liked him enough to pick him with a torn ACL? Knowing that he wasn't going to play his rookie year. Who
would you think? So you think that's something that's probably a Mike Brown pick?
I think it's a Mike Brown pick because my thing is here. When you look at it, you don't have to be a former player. All you have to know is a little bit about football. Mike, you know a lot about football. On your team right now, would 70 still be in the game?
No, 70 wouldn't even be on the team. If it's up to me, and I'm not paying him, and the owner lets me do what I want, his ass would have been cut probably the third game of the year when I learned that he can't kick step and he can't use his hands.
Yeah, and you may not see in the NFL, you may not be able to cut him because of salary cap issues. The fact that his salary is high, his first-round pick, so if you cut him, his entire contract goes against the salary cap right now.
Yeah, but the thing is this, Joe, it's going against it anyways.
Well, the difference you have to understand with he's in his second year, so I don't know what his signing bonus is. So say if he signed a 4-year deal, the say if his signing bonus is $4 million. So it's prorated. So only $1 million of that goes against the salary cap this year. So if you were to cut him, then those 2 remaining years, they're going to bump up. So say if he was making $1 million in salary, he got $4 million signing bonus, that's a 4-year contract. This is the second year. So if they cut him, not only with that $1 million salary count against the salary cap, the other $2 million that was going to be prorated for year 3, year 4, all that gets bumped into this year. So he's going to it's going to be a $4 million hit against the salary cap that the Bengals have to take. So I understand when you have, Romo can't get cut because he would destroy Dallas.
But my point is this though, Joe. You don't have to play him.
No, you don't. You don't, and you see Jerry Jones emphatically say Dak Prescott is going to be his guy. He emphatically said he's not getting rid of Romo, and he gave Romo, $129
Yes, because Jerry Jones is waiting for the first time Dak Prescott doesn't play well, and then he's going to bench him and put in Tony Romo.
Yeah. So, but, you look at the difference in commitments. Mike is right now, if Mike is not forcing this guy to be played, then Marvin has to be responsible for that guy being in that game and in the game. And there's no way on this planet that I would think that Marvin Lewis right now, looking at how bad this kid has been every single game, every single series, just about every single play. I'm not saying he's getting beat here and there. I'm saying he is getting beat every play. His technique is horrible. His effort is horrible. and it is what it is. I don't like to, destroy a guy's career and say he's this and he's that. He doesn't deserve to be in the NFL. But right now, this guy is definitely not an NFL.
Well, I'll tell you, if he's on my team, I don't start him. I don't play him. And since Jim McNally helps with the team, I would send him to live with Jim McNally for about 2 months and see what we come up with after that.
Yeah, he definitely will be on my inactive list.
And the other thing is this. If you look at it, Russell Bodine's been just as bad, if not worse, at center. But all the coaches stay with the company line that, he's going to be really good, and they keep playing him. So that's another one that I think maybe they have no choice in.
I think Savini Abuehi is Mike's decision, and I think Coach Alexander, you get coaches that like guys.
Yeah, and Alexander loves Bodine.
He loves Bodine. He back. We knew in the off season. Remember, we were talking.
Yeah,
and,
because he kept coming out defending him.
Yeah, every article that came out, he defended.
Yeah, and the fact is, if the kid's that good, you shouldn't have to defend him all the time.
I don't want you defending, how bad I am. If I'm that bad that you have to defend me every week, then there has to be some validity to that argument. There's something that I'm doing on a week. You can say I had a bad game or I had some bad plays, but I can tell you, I not to say I'm better than anybody else, but I never had a horrible game. I had some bad plays. I had, I messed up a coverage here, missed a tackle here, but I was going to be where I was supposed to be. Physically, you're going to get beat sometimes. But to say in 4 quarters, I played bad for 4 quarters, I don't even know how that's possible. To play bad for 4 quarters. Unless something is totally wrong with you, you have a physical ailment that you're not telling anybody about, and, you physically can't get it done. But just to play horrible the entire game, that's hard to do. That's hard to do and still say that, this guy is still a starter week 12. That's crazy to me. That's insane.
Well, hell, Bodine's been a starter for, 2 or 3 years. So, my question is this. If you're Andy Dalton, you're A.J. Green, you're Jeremy Hill, Gio Bernard, and you see these guys being allowed to play like that, and they still keep putting them in to protect you, there can't be a whole lot of confidence on the offensive side of the ball right now either.
Yeah. I would think. I remember my 10th year. I played up in Green Bay. And our captains were Reggie White, Yurkovich, Leroy Butler, and Brett. And I was a special teams guy. But when things happen in the locker room, those guys went to homeroom. When things were happening on the field, those guys went to homeroom. And it's the offensive guys, did their thing with homeroom, and the defensive guys did their thing. So I would think that AJ and Andy and Witt as the leaders on that team could go talk about the coach of the offense, and what's getting done.
Yeah, but the problem there is, Joe, they probably can't go to Mike Brown, which is the guy that's making a lot of these decisions.
No, you can't. But you can go. You can talk about it. You talk about what's going on in that captain meeting. You can talk about that and what's working and what's not working. I think they can do it. I don't look. I think it's good when offensive guys are trying to say things about defense. Offense, you stick with what you guys doing over here. And defense, we'll stick with what we're doing. But on defense, you have Dunlap. You have Gino, you have Petco, those guys. These guys, should be able to speak up, to the coach and, the safeties. Because I know that on a 4th and goal, 36 was supposed to drop down. You're supposed to drop down, and you ultimately going to kick. If that receiver passed perfect, you should have been there to break that play up. I looked at the defense. I looked at the play over. That was his responsibility. Because I know that, Gunther, there's no way that you're saying, here, I'm going to carry this number 2 receiver all the way over. You know, it wasn't a man. It wasn't a man. It was a zone. You were in a zone, zone coverage. You know, but it's just you would think that the film. You would think that over the bye week that a lot of those things would have been ironed out and been talked about. But what I see,
and that's the other stat that really bugs me about Marvin is the fact that off of bye weeks over 13 years, they're 4-9-1 coming off the bye.
And you've seen that. You totally seen that. You've seen that. You've seen that effort. You've seen that. So it's unfortunate, Mike, that this season is going the way it is based on the players we have, and we can look back and say, well, hey, maybe Hugh was bigger than we thought he was. Maybe Reggie Nelson was a major loss.
I think defensively, I think Reggie Nelson's the biggest loss on this team.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because you can see that Iloka does not play as well as what he did when Reggie Nelson was there.
No,
you can see the corners don't either. And, I mean, you know yourself, that safety is usually the quarterback of the defensive backs.
Yeah, it is. Because you can't be in the corners because the corners, they're out on islands. So,
yeah, I mean, the only one seeing everything is that safety, and it's usually the strong safety, or, I mean, it could be the free safety, but to me, there's no doubt it was Reggie Nelson that was the guy in charge of that. And there's so many broken coverages here anymore that it's ridiculous.
Yeah. You see what Cam Chancellor brings to the Seahawks.
Yeah.
You know, there's that safety position. You know, and to me, that's more vital than Richard Sherman. That safety, he's coming to supporting the run.
Yeah, the safety's got to be able to do more things.
Yeah, so you can see the impact that he makes. When Cam Chancellor's not in the game, you see the kind of defense that Seattle has. When Cam Chancellor is in there, there's a totally different defense. Now with us, with Reggie Nelson out, it's a totally different defense. You know,
and almost all the great defenses in history you bring up had a great safety.
Yeah, the safety. You know, you had a quarterback. That was
yeah. But, all right, we got to talk a little bit about the Bills game. The thing that worries me with the Bills game is the fact that they average 5.28 yards per game per carry. That's number one in the NFL. And, of course, as we know, the Bengals are having a hard time stopping the defense. My other concern, though, is we've given up 19 touchdown passes this year, which is already one more than last year. How are we going to defend this team? I mean, Tyrod Taylor's only thrown 3 picks this year, so you can't really bank on getting a lot of turnovers. We're actually going to have to stop them.
Right now, man, Mike, based on what I see, and this effort has been consistent for 11 weeks. And I just don't think that Sunday we're going to come out and we're just going to all of a sudden dominate. We're not.
No.
Because they still look like they're trying to learn after week 11. They're trying to learn this defense. They're trying to learn a scheme, and it's not happening. So with the Giants being the worst rushing team in the NFL, and there are times that we could not stop them.
Oh, hell, at the end of the game where you stop them, you get the ball back. They run the ball on a dive for 20 yards.
Or couldn't stop them. So I don't see them stopping Buffalo's run offense at all. I don't. And I'm looking at it, and I got to get my heart out of this thing, Mike. And at the end of the day, I don't see them stopping. You look at what the Giants running backs did to them compared to what LaShawn McCoy's going to do. It can get ugly. It can, unfortunately, it can get ugly. Buffalo, their defense is solid. Our offensive line, again, it's weak. You have number 70 in there. I think Buffalo is going to pin their ears back. They've seen what the Giants were able to do against them.
Oh, yeah, Rex Ryan's sending a kitchen sink at Andy Dalton this week.
He's coming. He's coming. And at the end of the day, you're going to try and force the ball to A.J. And, they got some running back. They got the linebacker here, Brown from Cincinnati going Buffalo. They're gonna, he can run somewhat with Eifert, and I think they're gonna. We're gonna have to utilize Eifert because I think they're gonna play a man on AJ and have a safety over top all day against him. And
well, he's listed on the injury list again this week.
Yeah, Eifert
now for a knee.
Yeah, so
but it said he did fully participate in practice yesterday.
Yeah, I some of those things are misleading because you'll get a fine. So anybody that hurt, you have to lift them. On
but just the fact that it's Eifert and he seems to always be hurt is what worries me there.
Yeah. So Mike, I'm not so much gung ho with this year's team because I don't see the heart, I don't see the desire, and I know Rex is gonna, because Rex is in a situation. He has to stay on pace with the Patriots, and the Patriots losing help them. So he's trying to make that playoff run. So I think he's going to come all out and throw all out. I thought I was going to see change from a defensive coordinator standpoint. I thought I was going to see some change from Zampese. And I seen the same thing I've seen in London, I've seen in New York. So I don't think there's, Mike, what's the difference between this week and last week and this week in Buffalo?
There's none, because once you get 11 weeks in, that waiting for one big sudden change, I think, ended.
Yes. And
it could happen, but I'm not going to predict it.
No, I'm not going to predict it, Mike. I think Buffalo is going to be very successful running the ball against us. I think Tyrod Taylor, he's going to be, actually through 3 picks. I think he's going to be able to sit back there all day like he's doing, based on what Gunther is doing and getting his defensive ends to stand up and form, and stand up upright and not take off on the ball, not rush the passer, not engage with the offensive tackle or the tight ends. I think if I was offensive coordinator and I looked at the success that the Giants have, and then I look at my personnel, and I know my personnel, my offensive line is better, my running back is better, we're going to take advantage of Cincinnati. And unfortunately, I think we're going to be in another game, another Sunday, looking at the same thing.
The only thing that gives me any hope is when you look at it, the Bengals giving up 28 sacks. The only team that's giving up more is Buffalo at 30.
Yeah, but if we're not rushing the passer, Mike, we're not rushing
I know,
the passer.
because same thing with the Giants. When Geno Atkins was getting after the quarterback, we stopped him through most of the first half. But then when he stops getting pressure, they double, they triple him. We're dropping back to defensive ends in the pass coverage. Eli Manning just picks you apart.
Yeah. So, it's tough and it's unfortunate because I do think that the Bengals have a great fan base. Most of us are not, I'm not jumping off the ship. It's still, No,
it's not jumping off the bandwagon. It's just telling the truth.
Yeah.
You cannot deny the facts.
Yes.
We're not Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, so we can't deny what is right in front of our eyes. I mean, if it's shit, you got to call it shit. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're getting so far. Hopefully that'll change this week. So what kind of score are you looking at?
I'm looking at I'm looking at Buffalo scoring 31 points against us. And I look at the score being 31-21 Buffalo.
That's the score I was going to pick, Joe.
Wow.
So I'll say 34-24 now.
Yeah. So you look at it, our offense, have we scored over 30 points?
No, and if you look at it, I mean, half the time our points are when the defense gets a turnover and we kick a field goal off of them instead of getting a touchdown. Yeah. And no, I don't think we have scored over 30. I think the most we got was 27 in tie with Washington.
Yeah. So, our offense is not capable of it's not the same offense. You don't have the time to throw. And honestly, LaFell is a good veteran receiver, but I think he's worthless. I think he's had a worthless season. He has had a worthless impact. he could have impacted us, and he could have, really made it easier for Boyd. Because now I don't see them. They just cover him one-on-one. They don't look at LaFleur making any kind of impact in the game plan. And when you do throw to him, he's either running the wrong route or he's not catching the ball. So you have number 18 getting pummeled because we know they're going to throw the ball to him, and we'll load up on AJ and Eifert, and those other guys will just match up with our nickel corner and go after him. And I think that's what we're going to do. I think AJ is going to get his catches. He's going to have his yards. If Eifert plays, I think Eifert's going to have 7-8 catches for 100-some yards, maybe a touchdown or two. But I just don't think it's going to be enough. And defensively, I don't think we can stop. We can't stop anybody right now.
Yeah, well, if they could, next week they play Baltimore, who will probably lose to Dallas. We'd have a shot to be right in it. I'm not going to hold my breath, but we will be back next week to review the Buffalo game and to preview the Baltimore game. So, Joe, any final words?
To the Bengal faithful, the Bengal nation, man, just be patient and hope that Pittsburgh and Baltimore continue to play the way they're playing. And, it could be ugly. It could be, like the last couple of years in the AFC South with, the winner of the division having a losing record, or 8-8. And I can see that for, I definitely know that there's only going to be one team from our league that goes to the playoffs. And, fortunately, we're still in it as far as that's concerned. But until they get pissed off about something, about the way this season has gone, we're going to see that. We're going to be in it. We're going to be close. We're going to make it respectable. But at the end of the day, I just don't see them getting it done this week against the number one rushing offense in the league. I
agree completely. And respectable and close is good enough for Mike Brown anyways, I think.
Right. Because he's still going to have 65,000 people come to the game, regardless.
Yeah. But, all right, guys, remember you can check out all the Grueling Truth shows and articles on thegruelingtruth.net. You can follow us on Twitter, @GruelingTruth. You can hear all the shows on iHeart, Spreaker, Stitcher, iTunes, Google Music. You'll hear the Grueling Truth. So for Joe Kelly, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.